Welcome to the American Institute of Healthcare Professionals Videogram on radical fundamentalist faith versus religious faith. And I wanted to delve into this subject a little bit because I think it's important, especially with some of the most recent occurrences in the news with radical fundamentalists emerging throughout the country and really misinterpreting Christianity, turning Christianity more into a flag for a nationalistic movement within the alt-right. And we see this type of radicalization almost everywhere in the alt-right, unfortunately. Also in the news, you can look anywhere and you see radical ideas of faith being utilized in Islam through Sharia law or through various forced conversions. And these are all examples of radical faith being utilized, distorting the true value of a creed. So religion in its essence is good, but when it's distorted, utilized for propaganda, then it can become something that is an instrument for evil. And it's very important to prevent this, even though it's happened throughout history. We want to prevent it from happening in the future. And I think as Christian counselors, ministers, we want to be better prepared to help individuals who are religious, who might be teetering towards a more fanatic type attitude. And we come across a lot of individuals who are very depressed, maybe they lost something, and they find this new beginning with a new creed maybe, or a new religion, and they just go into it head first. And with such religious zeal, we need to channel that zeal into a healthy, productive religious faith that is mature. And many individuals fall into fanatic groups because they've lost hope, because they no longer have anywhere to go, and they find acceptance within these groups. And they learned the radicalized element of that particular faith that interests them. Instead of staying within a more conventional faith or part of that faith, they end up going into these groups that are far more dangerous and radical in their overall teaching of their parent faith that they were in. So all faiths can be radicalized. And that's important. We see more extremist in the news in Islam, and we tend to think it only occurs in Islam, and that's not true at all. It occurs in the United States. We see radical movements all the time. We see groups that protest against soldiers. We see groups that protest against the homosexual community and just spew hate. And this is something that religion isn't supposed to spew. So what we see is a fundamentalism and a radicalization that takes place where they return to a particular fundamental root of the faith, and they overemphasize that part of the faith that attracts them at the expense of everything else. So what develops is a dogmatism over practice, a dogmatism where the ideas of the faith, which are important, but they're emphasized to such an extent that practice, Christian charity, and all these other important elements that make us Christian, because we want to primarily talk about Christianity in this video, since we're dealing with Christian counseling topics. But they cease to be Christian in service to others, and they only emphasize the law. And what classic example can be seen from that? If we turn to scripture, the gospels, we see that with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and how they changed, how the high priest became so enthralled and hypnotized by the letter of the law over helping individuals in need. And we see that especially in the case of the individual who picked up his mat on the Sabbath, and the Pharisees were immediately denouncing him, while Christ defended him and said, the law is good, but it's not made to harm us. So those that were fundamentalized, that were radicalized, the Pharisees in this story, All they could see was the law. They couldn't see human compassion. They couldn't be flexible in any way, shape, or form. So it's very important, and this is what we're going to talk about, is what is a healthy religious faith and what is a fanatic or a fundamentalist or a radical faith, and what are the characteristics of it, and how can we as counselors help individuals avoid such pitfalls. So within the elements of fundamentalism, no matter the creed, it could be Christianity or Islam or any other religion you can think of, there are strong elements of pride and hate. An element of pride where you see yourself better than others, a city on the hill, so to speak, going back to its Puritan type roots, where Christians saw themselves as better than other Christians or other faiths and put themselves on a higher pedestal. And this was a spiritual pride that was a pride at first developed for Christ and the faith, but which was later distorted and put the faith above other people, no matter what. And we see that spiritual pride throughout the Middle Ages in Christianity, the Inquisition, all of the wars of religion that arose from this type of fanaticism, the witch hunts in Salem. We see this, all these horrible things that can come from religion when it is radicalized. And pride and hate are the two motivating factors that lead to this destruction and turning religion into a tool of destruction instead of a tool of compassion and unity. So this pride and this hate just develops. And again, we see that today. We see that in the alt-right. We see that in groups who bash various people who have different moral backgrounds. Instead of despising the sin, we see them hating the sinner, so to speak, where such horrible signs are in protest lines where it says God hates blank, 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 or whomever. God doesn't hate. And the moment you start waving signs that says God hates, then you've become radicalized. You're placing dogma over something else. And a lot of these individuals, they stem from disobedience. They're unhappy with their particular faith for whatever reason, and they go for a group that they're going to find that has similar views and ideas that are radicalized. So they're always very schismatic in nature. They're breaking away from the primary tree of the particular faith. This is why they're extremists in Islam, within ISIS and Al-Qaeda. They're breaking from the main tree of Islam. Same is true with many of these groups within Christianity as well. And in this comes a division, a very strong division that breaks away from any center of unity. It's almost where it becomes reclusive, and they go and find themselves and they shelter themselves from the world. They see themselves against the world with an apocalyptic ending that they always are forecasting, or some sort of divine mandate that is guiding them through this lunacy for the most part, and how they behave and how they act and how they break away from conventional norms of society itself. And in their ideas of conversion, it's more of a you versus me type attitude. If you're not with me, you're against me. If you don't believe in this, you're going to hell. And these types of attitudes were always present in radical religion throughout the Middle Ages and so forth, and even until today. But today in the United States especially, there's more of a propaganda push to promote extreme views and an idea of conversion or hell. Now, in other parts of the world, forced conversion is also a physical reality where if you don't convert, you can be punished, fined, or executed. So that's all in all even another level that it can proceed to. But in the end, it is an immature faith that is passionate, that follows emotion without any type of reason, that is disobedient, that is filled with pride, and also has a stem of hate within it to push it forward. So the individual will overweigh one particular dogma and its dogmatism over another dogma. And this produces an imbalanced faith in regards to what is taught. And a lot of this comes to improper interpretation of the scriptures, disobedience to authority that has taught certain ways to be interpreted certain ways, and taking it their own way and manipulating it their own way. And this can lead to, as we list last, a cult within a religion. And we see a lot of these attitudes within particular faiths where there is a cult-like subdivision, a schismatic group that overemphasizes one thing over another and takes one particular value to an extreme and then decorates it with all of this spiritual pride and hate and identity. And again, that's one of the things that attracts individuals to this type of fanaticism. If you're a Christian counselor, you come across an individual who's depressed or down or looking to belong to a particular community. You know, these individuals are going to be attracted to that type of mentality itself. But are we not to be fanatic for Christ? We want to be fanatic for Christ in this world, but we don't want to be radical. Radical distorts what Christ taught. Radicalization is proud. Radicalization doesn't have love. Radicalization doesn't look for unity. We want to be fanatic for Christ. We want to take Christ to the marketplace. We want to live the faith. But we also want to do so in a way that's respectful to other individuals. We want to do so in a way that we have a healthy religious faith, a healthy religious faith that maintains the dogmas of our religion, but in a balanced way, guarded by the authorities that we respect. So that we look for love, unity, and respect with other religions and other individuals, while also maintaining our own beliefs itself. Because ultimately, we are to be fanatical about our faith. It's about our salvation, and we should spread the gospel. We should preach the word. Some places are inappropriate. Maybe some workplaces it's not appropriate to do. And that's okay. But it's for us to know when and where it is appropriate to implement Christ. We have our daily duty. There's some things we will do that don't involve religion, and that's fine too, because we were created to live on this world, to do certain things that need done that are not always religious, but we make everything we do a prayer, at least inside our heart. And that's the key. So we want to be dogmatic, but kind in the marketplace with others. Ecumenism is the dialogue and conversation with other people of different faith, but with a mutual respect for each other. So how we interact with other Christian denominations, how we interact with other non-monotheistic creeds. These are all things that we come across, and how we are able to dialogue with mutual respect and understanding is essential. We present our ideas with love and respect, but we don't necessarily alter. So a false ecumenism is something that will look to alter truth and dogma for the expense of union, to be together, to be under one roof, so to speak. So it's important in our faith that we don't become radicalized, but we also don't want to become indifferent. So when we speak of our faith in the marketplace, it's important to remain true, but also at the same time to express it in a respectful way, a loving way, where dialogue can take place. And when this is able to be accomplished, we can find common grounds. We can put our resources together, and we can even understand each other's beliefs a little bit better, so we don't misinterpret what another believes or mislabel or portray them as something they are not. And this is why dialogue is so important, because it might lead to union. Again, we're not going to deny Christ if we're in dialogue with a Jewish synagogue, We're going to respect the fact that we believe Christ is God. We're going to do so, though, in a respectful way. We're going to understand some of their beliefs about what they see as the qualities of the Messiah. And that's just an example. But that's proper ecumenism. And it looks for individuals and communities to grow together, to correct past wrongs, and to find a common goal, a common love. And many religions at their core do have common elements and traits that, when not distorted by radicalism, are very good for humanity. So as a religious individual, we're going to have certain attitudes. Doesn't make us radical, but we are going to be fanatic for Christ. But we're also going to be balanced. We're going to have Christ as a center of our life. We're going to have a Christocentric lifestyle. We're also going to have the life of the church play through, whether it's Mass for Catholics or just service for Protestants or various rituals. Prayer will also be a center, and moral laws are going to be portrayed in our life as important, even at the national level. It's going to affect how we are, how we interact nationally. We're going to take Christ to the public if a law is immoral. That doesn't make you fanatic. We're going to spread the gospel where we need to spread it. And that's about being fanatic for Christ. Being religious doesn't make you fanatic. And in this secular world that we live in, any type of religion makes you seem like a religious fanatic, doesn't it? Because everything is so secular, anti-God. But being religious, praying, doesn't make you a fanatic. Just like the Islamic individual, the Muslim, who prays 5 times daily. He's not fanatic. He's living his faith, or she is living her faith. So as Christians, we have to live a Christocentric life, but in a healthy ecumenical dialogue, one that respects other individuals, one that's not radicalized with imbalanced dogma, one that's not directed by a religious spiritual pride and hate, but one that protects the integrity of the faith, but takes Christ to the marketplace with respect and love for other individuals. Now, as Christian counselors, we're going to come across people who are broken, who are looking to belong. And these types of individuals can very easily be targets for fanaticism or radicalization. There's also individuals that we might find in our counseling or within our congregation that have a strong spiritual pride. They could be susceptible, or a disobedient type soul within themselves, a spirit that looks to rebel. We might also find individuals who forget that Christians hate the sin, not the sinner. So we need to look at these types of individuals, and we need to lovingly correct these extreme views, these literal interpretations maybe that they take, which grounded authorities throughout the history of Christianity look at it a different way. And we need to instruct them into proper understanding of this particular scripture so that it's not later misused and they fall victim to a fanaticism or fall into the alt-right that we see so much common, that looks to nationalize Christianity and use Christianity as a way to identify as being an American only. So these types of radical movements are very prominent right now. And this is why I wanted to address this for my Christian counseling program that AIHCP offers, so that we can have a very healthy spirituality, a healthy religious faith, one that is not corrupted by fanaticism itself. This is our Christian counseling certification program we offer. Below is a link which you can click. It leads to the program itself. There are 7 core courses. They're online and independent study, and it leads to a 4-year certification as a spiritual Christian counselor. The link below, again, please check it out when you can. Our phone number is 330-652-7776, and our email is info@aihcp.org. So let's be fanatic for Christ without being radicalized. And I'd like to wish everyone a good day, and thank you for listening.